Here is a beautiful little butterfly, a butterfly which people in Nottinghamshire haven't seen for in excess of 100 years, probably even longer than that, because the few historical records we have for the Marsh Fritillary here in Nottinghamshire are, to say the least, tinged with a degree of doubt and scepticism. Now here's a delightful little butterfly that no one's seen, certainly in Nottinghamshire, within the last 100 years, at least not in a wild state. The only records we have of this butterfly, this is the Marsh Fritillary of course, are historical records, and those few historical records we have are all tinged with doubt. In the case of Sterland's claims that J. Truman recorded this species on a number of occasions from Sherwood Forest, more than just a tinge of doubt. J.W. Carr, who wrote the Invertebrate Fauna of Nottinghamshire back in 1916, poured scorn, and quite rightly so, on the majority of Sterland's records. He recorded many butterflies and moths that nobody else recorded. Certainly on the moth front, he recorded some weird stuff even allowing for times 100 years or so years ago when distributions of our Lepidoptera were very different. I doubt those records nowadays would get past any county recorder, and quite rightly so. There was some weird stuff, and because of those, all his records were regarded by J.W. Carr as being pretty iffy and doubtful. It's almost like the case of the boy who cried wolf, I suppose. But the only other record we have left to us from historical times is one of these from Worktop. One was recorded by a Miss Alderson round about the turn of the last century sometime. Now, Miss Alderson eventually became Lady Robinson. She married well, and she also did a lot of recording of butterflies and moths, mainly in the Clumber area, but no doubt in the Welbeck estate area as well. They're the only records we had. And this is a butterfly, a very weak flying butterfly. Certainly not a butterfly that you would expect to ravage and rampage around the countryside, colonising wherever its food plant devil's bit scabious or honeysuckle occurs. This is a very sedentary species as far as I'm aware, and I think even in the whole of the Midlands in the UK this would be quite a prized find. This one of course is captive bred. Despite their rarity or uncommonness in the UK, these are very easily bred by butterfly breeders, and the livestock is very easily available and cheap as well. You can buy an egg batch for less than 20 quid, and you can certainly get a number of larvae for about the same price. Beautiful little butterfly though, isn't it? It would be great to have something like this flying around the Nottinghamshire countryside in suitable habitat. I am not releasing these before anyone starts emailing in. This is just one that I brought out with me to film and to show you on this channel. In all honesty, that's the only likelihood you're ever going to see one in Nottinghamshire is on this channel by this butterfly. The Marsh Fritillary is a beautiful little thing. I'm surprised that there haven't been a number of captive releases, and maybe they have over the years, but when Dillis and I researched the status of butterflies in Nottinghamshire from, well, up until a number of years ago, about 5 years ago, we published the details and findings on the website, we came across no reports of this species having been released anywhere in Nottinghamshire. And yet there must be plenty of suitable habitat. It's just a beautiful little thing. Maybe one day the Marsh Fritillary will be introduced, or possibly reintroduced, but historically, I say, I can't find any records to suggest that this was ever a breeding butterfly in Nottinghamshire. And indeed, when we did the roundup of Nottinghamshire's butterflies over the last century or so, there was no record of any breeding. And indeed, we didn't even class this as being on the Nottinghamshire list, because those historical records, there has to be an element of doubt over them. Certainly Sterling's records. It's a shame that this is one butterfly which isn't doing so well, and because of its generally poor and weak fluttery flight, it's hardly likely to ever do well. I think even at many sites where it does occur, it's not the most abundant thing at all. Yet it has to be one of the most beautiful.